Imagine you're an ancient Egyptian embalmer, standing in a dimly lit chamber, the air heavy with incense. On the marble slab before you lies the pharaoh's wife, her lifeless body awaiting preservation. But this is no ordinary mummification. The orders you've received shatter every sacred tradition you've sworn to uphold, and the reason behind them sends ice through your veins. This isn't a tale spun from imagination. It's the chilling reality of ancient Egypt, a civilization celebrated for its pyramids and golden treasures, yet cloaked in intimate practices so extreme they'd shock even the most open-minded today. Prepare to have everything you thought you knew about one of history's greatest empires turned upside down. The truth is darker than you can imagine. Like, share, and subscribe to join me on this journey into the shadows of history. Your curiosity is the key to unlocking these buried truths. Hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into the abyss together. When you think of ancient Egypt, images of majestic pyramids, divine pharaohs, and glittering treasures likely come to mind. But there's a side to this civilization that textbooks and museums have long concealed. A world where sexuality was not a private act but a cosmic force, wielded as a tool of power, religion, and control. From 3100 BCE to 30 BCE, along the fertile banks of the Nile, the Egyptians developed intimate practices so shocking that Victorian archaeologists destroyed or hid the evidence to protect their delicate sensibilities. This wasn't about pleasure alone. It was about divine potency, political domination, and a belief system that intertwined sex with the gods, the Nile's floods, and the survival of an entire civilization. In ancient Egyptian society, sexuality was seen as divine energy, capable of influencing the gods, ensuring the Nile's fertility, and securing prosperity. Pharaohs, revered as living gods, bore the immense burden of proving their divine potency through sexual displays. Their intimate performance was believed to control the Nile's floods, ensure bountiful harvests, and maintain cosmic order. Temple inscriptions, hidden from modern tourists, reveal explicit rituals where sexual acts were performed as prayers. Papyrus texts describe positions and techniques considered sacred, each orgasm believed to be a conversation with the divine. But this cosmic sexuality had a sinister side. The pressure to prove divine potency led to increasingly extreme practices, including genital modifications, systematic abuse, and rituals that turned religious devotion into violence. If this glimpse into Egypt's hidden history intrigues you, smash that like button and comment where you're watching from. I'd love to know who's joining me on this wild ride. Don't forget to subscribe for more shocking revelations. The most chilling evidence lies in Egypt's mummification rituals. In 1925, Howard Carter's team examined Tutankhamun's mummy and made a haunting discovery. The boy king's genitals were missing, surgically removed with precision shortly after death. This wasn't an isolated case. As technology advanced, examinations of other royal mummies revealed a disturbing pattern of genital removal or modification. Some showed signs of castration, others had foreign materials inserted to enhance their appearance in the afterlife. The tomb of an unnamed 18th dynasty prince provided the most shocking evidence. His genitals were removed while he was still alive, part of a deliberate religious procedure to perfect the body for eternal service to the gods. Ancient texts describe these modifications as necessary for spiritual function in the afterlife, raising unsettling questions about whether such practices extended to the living. Were these procedures purely post-mortem, or did they reflect a broader culture of bodily alteration? When 19th-century archaeologists uncovered explicit imagery and evidence of these practices, they were horrified. Victorian prudishness couldn't handle the truth, leading to a systematic cover-up. Explicit tomb paintings were plastered over, artifacts were locked in private collections, and texts were edited or destroyed. The Ebers Papyrus, a key medical text, had over 40 sections on sexual practices that weren't translated until the 1970s. The British Museum still holds over 2,800 suppressed artifacts, labeled as miscellaneous pottery, to avoid scrutiny. Universities refuse to fund research into Egyptian sexuality, and museums like the Louvre and the Metropolitan Museum of Art continue to restrict access to explicit artifacts. This censorship has created a sanitized version of history, ignoring the central role of sexuality in Egyptian culture and leaving massive gaps in our understanding. Let's break through this censorship together. Like, share, and subscribe to spread the word about these hidden truths. Your support keeps these stories alive. The darkest aspect of Egyptian sexuality was its impact on the vulnerable. Royal children, some as young as 6, were dedicated to temple service, where they were trained in sexual techniques for religious rituals. This training was brutal, involving forced flexibility exercises, poor nutrition to maintain childlike proportions, and psychological conditioning to view their bodies as divine instruments. Medical papyri document chronic injuries, stunted growth, and high mortality rates among these children, many of whom died from infections or internal injuries. Domestic slaves faced similar horrors. Legal documents reveal that child slaves were bought and sold for sexual purposes, their value determined by age and appearance. The psychological toll was devastating, with survivors showing signs of severe trauma, including sexual compulsivity or withdrawal. Priests justified this abuse as divine service, convincing families that their children's suffering was a sacred honor. This is a tough truth to face, but it's one we need to hear. Comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe to honor these forgotten voices. The Feast of Drunkenness, dedicated to the goddess Hathor, was Egypt's most notorious festival. What began as a celebration of divine femininity descended into a week-long orgy of violence and sexuality. Participants consumed beer laced with psychoactive substances, believing they became vessels for the gods. Social norms collapsed. Masters slept with slaves in public, married women joined roving bands of revelers, and children were exposed to or forced into explicit acts. Ancient texts describe scenes of shocking violence, group abuse, competitive sexual displays, and injuries considered divine marks. Foreign diplomats called the festival barbaric, and the aftermath left families shattered, with participants often unable to recall their actions. The economic cost was immense, with cities shutting down for a week, but pharaohs saw it as a necessary release of social tensions to maintain their rigid hierarchy. Can you believe the scale of this chaos? Hit that like button if you're ready for more, and subscribe to keep uncovering history's darkest secrets. The collapse of Egyptian sexual culture began during the Ptolemaic period, when Greek rulers clashed with Egyptian traditions. Cleopatra I and III tried to reform the Feast of Drunkenness, but priests warned that altering sacred rituals would anger the gods. The Roman conquest in 30 BCE marked the final blow. Augustus Caesar ordered the destruction of explicit artwork, texts, and temple features, erasing evidence of Egypt's sexual practices. Former temple children, conditioned for sexual service, struggled to adapt, with many dying by suicide. Despite Roman efforts, underground cults and child trafficking persisted, showing the deep psychological impact of these practices. The Romans' destruction of evidence set the stage for the Victorian cover-up, ensuring that the full extent of Egyptian sexuality remained hidden for centuries. The horrors of ancient Egyptian sexuality, genital modifications, child abuse, and violent festivals reveal a civilization where religious devotion twisted into systematic oppression. For 3,000 years, sexuality was a tool of cosmic control, leaving a legacy of trauma that shaped Egyptian society. The Victorian cover-up and modern museum restrictions have kept these truths from us, but it's time to face the reality of this complex civilization. If this journey into Egypt's hidden darkness has left you hungry for more, click the video on your screen to explore another shocking chapter of history. Hit that subscribe button to join our community of truth seekers, and share this with others who need to hear these forgotten stories. Your support ensures these voices are heard, and together we'll keep peeling back the layers of history's darkest secrets. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's make history come alive.